The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hey guys, and welcome to Hoop Ball Fantasy DFS Today. I'm your host today, Brenton Eckersley, all the way here from Adelaide in South Australia. Hosting today and running solo because it just appears that Mike Apotria is a little bit MIA at the moment. Haven't heard from him. Hope everything's okay there, Mike. But we'll just quickly run through this Friday, October the 9th slate. Obviously, we're down to the last two teams, so not much is changing as we go through this series. Personally, kind of hoping that the Heat can keep this very close and maybe even pull off a win in Game 5 and keep this series going a little bit longer. This game is currently projected with the Lakers favoured by 7 points, and the over-under is 216. So not too bad in terms of pace, and of course we don't have many other options or any other options. So we'll just start diving into both of these teams, and really, guys, it's pretty much as you've seen it, that we don't expect too many surprises. It's just a matter of getting your lineups nice and balanced, and hoping that one of the guys that you pick, in the lower bracket of pricing may go off for you. Just before we start, as always, DFS Today is brought to you by a couple of our sponsors, one of them being manscaped.com. Unfortunately, I don't have a reading sheet here to give you any details there, but of course they do have the Lawnmower 3.0 that we've been talking to you guys about to keep yourselves nice and trim. And we are also brought to you at the moment by ExpressVPN. So go check those guys out on the web if you're looking to keep your package nice and trim, or if you're looking to, do a little bit of private work on the internet and maybe get yourself into some of those overseas websites and TV shows that we have been talking about lately. All right, guys, so we'll just quickly run through this. As I mentioned, not too many surprises. The only thing we really need to keep an eye on here is whether Goran Dragic actually gets up. He's listed as doubtful at the moment. Look, he did try and get through warm-ups in the last game. You could see him pretty upset on the bench after that, not able to actually suit up and play for the Heat. You'd have to expect he's fairly close. And, of course, that's going to change a few things if he does actually suit up for this game. So that's the one piece of news we've got to keep our eyes on. We'll just quickly run through, captain options, maybe on the Heat team. Look, honestly, I've had a bit of a play around on DraftKings with captain spots, and they've actually made this game pretty tricky to maximise a captain spot and also help yourself out with a couple of extra studs. It's actually quite difficult to do that with the pricing the way it is in this one. So, look, I'd definitely be looking one of two ways, and that's probably playing, one of the absolute studs in your Davis or LeBron or Butler in your captain spot, one other stud in a utility spot, and then you're going to have to do some bargain shopping. So that's one way to go to maximise that 1.5 times points for your captain. It is actually quite tricky to find mid-prices in this slate to drop into that captain spot. Everyone is actually quite priced up. So, there are a couple of options. Look, just for example, Tyler Hero here is in the captain spot is priced up at 13.5, and that's starting to make it kind of difficult to get other studs in around. You may have to find a more balanced lineup, like looking at perhaps Hero in your captain spot and Bam alongside him, but you're probably going to struggle to get a Butler or a Davis or a LeBron inside alongside it and one of those other studs if you pay up that much for your captain. So you're probably going to have to look lower down the board here. So potentially do a bit of cost saving on your captain spot and have a look at someone like Jay Crowder, 11,100 for your captain spot. He's been scoring pretty consistently. In fact, it's very consistent, around 24 DK points per game. Now, that's not fantastic, but as I mentioned, you're going to struggle to get someone high-priced into your captain spot and also loaded up with a couple of other studs. So Jay Crowder's worth a look. I probably wouldn't go near Duncan Robinson as captain. He's just been all over the place this series. He has shot well in the last couple of games and put up some DK fantasy points, but it's just a little risky for me with Goran. So with Duncan. So, the other option over on the Lakers for your captain spot is potentially Rajon Rondo. So, again, not super high fantasy points production, but you can expect a big game from Rondo at any time. And to save yourself some money and only pay $9,300 for your captain spot is an option. Other guys around this pricing, low pricing, I mean, really, you're taking risks now. If you're dropping KCP or Dwight Howard or Kyle Kuzma into your captain spot, you are going to have the luxury of some extra studs alongside them, but you're really kind of taking a risk. And I don't mind risks in DFS. We got to take some risks sometimes to separate ourselves. So there's just a couple of ways to attack this game. The pricing does make it a little dicey either way. So it's probably a multiple lineups episode here. We probably need to drop a few lineups in to make sure we're covering a few bases. Back to the Heat. As far as utility pricing goes, Goran Dragic at 8,000. That's a good price for him. I mean, we're probably not expecting 40 DK points, but we don't need 40 DK points. We've just got to find decent lineups to work around some studs. So if Dragic is ready to go, the risk there is that they are kind of in a desperate situation at 1-3 down the Heat, so that they may potentially be playing Dragic before they would normally play him in a regular season game. So there is a risk of re-injury, or he's just not right and can't push off of that foot that he's injured. So it's a risky one, but if he does suit up, there's no way you can't play him because he could go off for 45 DK points. So you've got to have him in a few lineups. I'd just be under-owning him a little bit, I would say. Duncan Robinson, 7,000. Sure, his last two games, he's been, like I said, shooting pretty well, 31.25 DK points and 27.75. But just go back 2 games to game 1 and he had 5 DK points. So, that's a risk. The Lakers are wearing him like a glove. That seems to have slipped off a little bit in the last couple of games in this series, but, he can light it up, obviously. So we've got to consider him. Again, he's probably more of a pivot play than a solid lineup feature for me. Jimmy, you can play Jimmy. Just play Jimmy. I mean, he's priced up. He's at 10.8, but the fantasy production is absolutely there. I mean, 37 DK points in game 1, but then he's been absolutely smashing it as we've seen. He went 56.5, a massive 83.25, and then back to a 56 DK points. So that's a down game for him at the moment. You can absolutely slot him in as one of your, 2 studs, 3 studs, if you can, find some bargains around them. He's absolutely in play, and he's probably going to feature in most of my lineups alongside Davis or LeBron, and just do some switching around with those 3 guys. Jay Crowder, currently 7,400 on DK. As I mentioned, just solid 24 DK points a minute. He has to be played. He's very consistent at the moment. He's not just shooting. He's doing a whole lot of other stuff on the court. So we're not particularly looking too much at pricing when we're talking about a showdown slate. We just need to fit guys in who are going to perform. So if a floor guy of 24 points is in your lineup, you're never going to say no to that. Bam Adebayo, so back in game 4 and instantly put up 25.75 DK points in 33 minutes. So 33 minutes is a great sign. You would expect that to potentially even go up a little bit here. 9,800, yep, absolutely. I mean, Bam's one of the best players out there, and as long as he's fit and firing, you can always play Bam. He's sucking a little bit out of your salary cap for sure, but you can expect that this fantasy production is going to go up in this game. The Heat need to win. They need their guys firing, and Bam's going to be aggressive here, so I don't see why he can't put up solid 35 to 40 DK points. Kendrick Nunn, that's all based on whether Goran Dragic comes back or not. Obviously, if Dragic is back in, we are going to probably just walk away from Kendrick Nunn, even at 4K on DK. He's just not going to get the minutes. He's been playing decent minutes. Even when he has been playing decent minutes, fantasy production's been 50-50. So game 1 was up over 25 DK points. Game 2 was 24 DK points. Then he went 6.25 and 12. So we've got to temper our expectations there. And I would be just putting a line through him if Goran is back. Tyler Hero, 9,000, cool. This kid's just balling. He's been a little bit down this series in terms of fantasy production as to where he was in previous series. But again, we've got limited options. 9K is that middling kind of price that we need to flip some guys around and find different combinations. So no problems with playing hero. Derek Jones Jr., no. Andre Iguodala, probably no. Kelly Olynyk, now that Bam is back, he dropped all the way back from 31 minutes in games 2 and 3, respectively, all the way back down to 12. 6 fantasy points. He's just a play if Bam isn't out there, and unfortunately that's the way it is with Kelly. Solomon Hill's interesting. Now, if you really want to get to the bottom of the dumpster here and save some serious money, he hasn't actually played a lot of minutes recently. In fact, I'm not sure he saw the floor in Game 4. I can't quite remember, but in the utility spot at 1,400, if you just want a dumpster dive so you can get studs and hope that Solomon Hill can hit a few shots and get you 10 DK points, then he's not a bad option. Obviously, we're not building lineups around him. We just want to make sure that we have some different lineups going in, and he is a way to reach some of the studs on this game. Okay, flipping over to the Lakers, and we will keep this short, as I mentioned. We're just going to fly through. So LeBron James, the captain spot is 18.6 for him, and if you do play him in the captain slot, again, that makes it difficult to get other guys in around him. I'd be looking lower than LeBron, but in the utility spot, no problems at all. 12.4, he can be flipped around with the other 2 major studs and Bam as well, if you want to add him into the stud pile there, and just make sure you got some different lineups coming out. So he's averaging over 57 DK points in this series. So, we know what the production's going to be like. The salary at 12.4 for a utility spot, sure, it's steep, but it's LeBron. It's Game 5. It's win or go home, and you can expect LeBron to come out firing, so no problems paying that for him. KCP at 5,600. Yeah, pretty solid production from KCP. He's a guy on the Lakers that I always struggle to get right, and he's proved me wrong this series. He's been very, very consistent, 21.7 DK points over the 4 games, and 5,600 is fine for him. I'd certainly rather play him over Danny Green for obvious reasons. Danny's just struggling to hit any kind of shots at the moment, bouncing around anywhere between 28 DK points and 6.7 DK points, so I'll just leave Danny Green alone, thanks. Anthony Davis, stud, go for it, 11.8. Even on his down games, he did have a very down game in Game 3, 27.75, which was, well written about. But look, if his bounce back game is 49.25, then, and that's a slow day for AD, you got to consider him as one of these guys that you're going to flip between in the stud area. So if you're going to get your 3 guys in there and maybe some dumpster dives, you'd be looking at flipping between LeBron, Jimmy, and Anthony Davis, and just creating different lineups that way. Who have I missed here? Rajon Rondo. So 6,200 in the utility spot. Not a problem for that. You've got limited options here. There's only a certain number of slots that you can slot into your team, and if you're entering multiple lineups, then Rajon's no problem at all. He can go off for a big night anytime. And the floor is, not too bad either. So, he's had a couple of in the teens DK points returns in this series. But generally, you're expecting more from Rajon than that. So no problems playing him either. JaVale McGee, no minutes for him. Dwight Howard, very strange returns from him. He was playing so well and putting up some decent DK points for us starting in the last series. He continues to start in this series, but the DK points just aren't there. So 14.5, 14, 10.75, and 1.5 in Game 4, which is just freakishly low. He was actually down to 8 minutes there. Just be aware of that. We're definitely seeing more minutes from Markieff Morris, who has gone from 18 and 16 in Games 1 and 2 right up to 30 minutes in Game 4. Morris himself, the production has been good. It's a little bit lower than we probably like, but you're only paying $3,600 in the utility spot for him, so he's completely fine to slot into lineups. He did have a big game in Game 3, 31.5 DK points, so if you think that he can get out there, make his shots, get some boards, and get those minutes that he has been getting, at $3,600 is definitely a salary saver, and maybe worth a real look here. Alongside him and Jay Crowder, similar body builds and type of players, I guess, and they're both worth a look in the utility spots. Alex Caruso, 3,400, great, but the fantasy production is just really never there. The highest he's hit in this series is 20 DK points in Game 1, and since there it's really just been declining. So the minutes are okay, usually around 22 to 26, but it's tough to play him when he's not making shots, and he's certainly never going to be a focus of this offense when there's some other, obviously big-name guys and some other guys who just let fly from the wings all the time. So probably not looking at too much Caruso. Kyle Kuzma, there's a lot of talk about Kyle Kuzma improving in this series. I'll just break that down into what it means for fantasy points. His best outcome in this series has only been 24.25, so don't get too carried away with Kyle Kuzma. He's bounced around between, he dropped as low as 12 DK points in the last one, and that was still at 19 minutes, so it's tough to play Kuz. I actually like Kuzma. I think he's probably got a lot of upside as a player. He's just stuck behind these massive stars on this Lakers team at the moment. He can get boards. He can get on hot streaks shooting. 4,800. Drop him in some lineups, but probably not too many. I think that pretty much covers it for us today, guys. I mean, we're not really expecting too many surprises. Obviously, the Dragic news is one to keep an eye on before the game starts. So, yeah, keep tuned to your favourite websites and Hoop Ball fantasy website to make sure you're on top of the news and make sure you know who's playing, who's starting, etc. And that's pretty much it from us, guys. That's Game 5 wrapped up. And yeah, as I said, I hope we can possibly see another game out of this one, and maybe Mike and I can get back on the microphone again and bring you the next one. But that is it for us today here at Hoop Ball DFS Today. Once again, thanks to our sponsors in ExpressVPN and Manscaped.com. We appreciate you guys. Give us a follow. You can find us at a lot of our tweets come out of Hoop Ball tweets. There's also Hoop Ball Fantasy. You can find me at Terrain72. So that's TERRAIN72. And my good buddy missing in action, Micah Potria over in Connecticut. You can find him at MikeApoTria on Twitter. Thanks, guys. Have some fun out there, and as Mike would say, let's go crush some GPPs.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.